In the forward-thinking world of video games, it's time to do something unusual. That is, look back. Available now for the PlayStation 2 is a nostalgia series for anyone who was out of diapers by 1980. Midway Arcade Treasures, a compilation of 20 of the best arcade games.
Producing and working with these games really brought back some memories from when I was in high school. You know, I would walk home, stop at the pizza parlor, I'd grab a soda, grab some change, and spend, half hour, an hour playing these games.
Sound familiar? Defender, Joust, and Gauntlet are just a few of the classic quarter crunchers that you can relive with this game.
For some people, it probably would be difficult to fight the urge to update these games, but we felt that we just wanted to keep it classic. We wanted to keep it to what people would remember.
And few remember better than these guys. Now elder statesmen of the biz, George Gomez and Mark Trammell designed some of the most pioneering arcade games back in the day. George remembers what it was like working on Spy Hunter, which is included on Midway Arcade Treasures.
We were this little development team that nobody paid attention to, sort of in a warehouse in the company. Like, it was just a bunch of guys with a passion for games that had talked the company into letting us try to work on games.
Let's go!
Mark was the man behind Smash TV, also included on Midway Arcade Treasures.
I knew Smash TV was going to be a classic game probably 2 weeks after I started the game.
Most features of the industry have changed, but the raw thrill of launching a new game existed then as it does now.
Put some great graphics up front, do really nice big explosions, sound effects, and hook the player early. When you'd walk in, you would hear big money, big prizes, bingo! Bingo! So it was definitely an attention grabber.
An attention grabber that sucked you in, one quarter at a time.
My payoff was always going into the arcade and seeing kids, pumping money into the machine, enjoying it, looking around, laughing, smiling.
Designing for the arcade was different than it is for home play.
The arcades were inherently social. When a cool game was in an arcade, it had a crowd around it.
The thing that's changed the least over the last 20 years in game development is just the kind of the core requirement that you entice people along.
And that's just what these classic games figured out how to do, with simple ideas and simple controls.
It's very clear to the user what his mission is. A couple of buttons, one joystick, a few bad guys on the screen. It's very clear.
Even though the medium is different, the medium has evolved, I think that there's still entertainment value in the old stuff.
And they managed to create that enticement and entertainment with paltry technical horsepower.
Our tools were really primitive. Our art tools were, they were one step beyond coloring in grid paper. I had a roll of paper and I drew the road on this, and I just kept on rolling the paper and drawing the road. The hardware designer for Spy Hunter told me that I had 4,096 colors to select from, but I could only use 32 at a time.
Laughable by today's standards, but somehow these games still suck you in.
It's kind of like watching a great old movie. It's, you've seen it before, you've seen it 100 times. Maybe it doesn't have the spectacular special effects that a current version would have, but it still works great. It still tells a story.
And remember, there was little precedent for these games. Each one, like Smash TV, was creating its own new genre.
When we put that game into the arcades, it was expected that there would be bedlam. People would pump money into it, and indeed that's what happened.
And 15 years later, Mark is still blowing away players with innovation. He's creative director at Midway Sports. Sometimes he marvels at how far games have come.
Back in '88, '89, that's really when we first began to digitize images, digitizing textures for walls, faces. And so that was really kind of groundbreaking at the time.
We've gone from 3 or 4 man teams to 50-man teams. At bigger companies, 100-man teams, 150-man teams. I have no idea what it used to cost us to fund a 4-man team back then, but I'm sure it wasn't $12 million.
And those big bucks and big teams are making games better and better.
Well, I think the future of video games is incredibly bright. It's a very exciting time now because the technology, again, is about to quadruple over the previous generation.
I think the future of video games is going to be games that basically allow you to have this interactive experience with a movie, which is what we've been trying to do since day one.